Greetings, my brothers and sisters. This Sunday we celebrate the 14th Sunday in ordinary time in the year of the church. You know, a long time ago, well, it's a long time now, for about 3 years or so, I was a vocation director. And in that time, I travelled the whole of Australia, the whole country, speaking to young people, promoting the idea of religious life and priesthood. And I would speak to young people and listen to them, and also to not so young people and be listening to them as well. Because everybody has a vocation. Doesn't matter who we are, we all have a vocation, not just those who feel called to priesthood or religious life. And often young people would ask me, how do I know if God is calling me to priesthood or religious life? And really, the question, perhaps which is more fundamental today, since many of our young people have become estranged from the church, is what is God calling me to be, period, in life? What is the purpose of my existence? Why am I here? Is there any meaning to life? Because it's only when we start to look at those questions in an honest and vulnerable and, if you like, naked way, that we will then ask the further questions about, what does God want for me? What does God want me to be in this life? But getting back to these young people at the time, when they would ask me that question, how do I know if God is calling me to priesthood or religious life? It's the same as how we know God is calling us to anything. I would say to them, what is in your heart? And that's not an easy question to answer, and that's why we accompany people in seeking to discern the will of God in their lives. What does it mean to say, what is in your heart? Really, it begins with, through prayer and through talking and articulating, coming to know what is it at the very center of your being that you desire more than anything else in life. And there you will find your God. Now, the big question, of course, is it the living God, or is it a God of our own making, an idol? Because our deepest desire tells us something about who God is for us or who we are. And are we really seeking to do the will of the Lord, or is our deepest desire to do what we want? But that's why it can get a little complicated. And that's why we need to walk with people so that we don't fool ourselves too easily. That's why we need to worship, to pray the scriptures, and to pray unceasingly, if you like, to ask the Lord to reveal himself to us. But still, it's a valid question, because at the very heart of who we are, God is there, sustaining us in existence, loving us in existence, speaking to us, calling us to be who we're meant to be. And so today's readings for the 14th Sunday are about desire, the desire of God for us, and also our desire. Because really at the heart of everything we do as human beings, even sin, there is a desire to be more than we are. We desire to be happy, to be whole, to be loved, and to be known. And so our life is a journey in which we seek to fulfill our desire for holiness and happiness. So this desire is ultimately a gift from God, who has desired us from all eternity. Our fundamental desire to be happy is the very thing which drives us towards God, who is our only true happiness. Sin and lifestyles and patterns of behavior that are incompatible with true life, with being truly human, with eternity with God, all of these kinds of things are really, if you like, diversions. They're dead ends that we go down because we think they're going to make us happy. They think it's going to fulfill us, whether it be taking something that's not ours, whether it be in some sexual desire that is not purely and simply within the marriage covenant of a man and a woman. We do all these things in our lives to protect what we think we need to protect, and to desire what we think will make us happy. And so the the task, if you like, of the human being, and certainly the task of the Christian, is to purify our desire, because at the heart of it, at the foundation of it, is a really profound good and beauty. It's the desire for God, who is our ultimate happiness, the only one who can love us and fulfill us. And so we have in the first reading the prophet Isaiah giving us a very powerful image of the intimate desire and love God has for us. He depicts God as a mother cuddling her child, feeding her child from her own breast. You can't get a much more intimate image of how God wants to be with us than the one Isaiah gives us this day. This is what we long for. This is the God who loves us into being, into existence. He loves us so tenderly that he wants to nurture us. He wants to protect us so that we can truly grow into the people that God knows we can be, that we're created to be. And it's this message of tremendous love and the desire and the peace of God that Jesus calls his disciples to go out and to preach in the gospel today. The very heart of their message is peace. God is coming for you. And Jesus tells the disciples to take nothing on the journey with them, because they're going to be ambassadors of God's peace. And if so, they can't take any baggage. They have to rely solely on God. And this is a really important point. It's at the heart of Jesus' command to them, because we can only truly be messengers of peace when we've got nothing to defend. If we have, and this is what we mean by baggage, it's not simply the physical possessions we have, but it's also the psychological and spiritual possessions that we have. The desire to be liked, to be loved, to be respected. All of these things are baggage. And we need to divest them, because the only person we need to worry about as to whether they like us or love us or respect us is God. And the more we enter into that communion, the freer we are. The freer we are to be true ambassadors of peace. And this was the insight or the revelation that St. Francis of Assisi understood completely. And when he heard this very gospel, his heart leapt for joy, and he cried out, "This is what I want. This is what I long for with all my heart." He had found his heart's desire. This is it. And in fact, it's your heart's desire. It's my heart's desire. It's our heart's desire to follow the command of the Lord and to be his ambassador of peace. And so when Francis heard this gospel, he at last knew what the Lord wanted him to do with his life. And so he began soon after the order of the Friars Minor. Now, you and I don't have to become Friars Minor, but the same gospel is proclaimed to us. And it's proclaimed by Jesus this Sunday to us, because this is our heart's desire. If we truly listen, we will hear the Lord speaking to us. So St. Francis took it very literally, and he had no possessions for himself, because if he had anything of his own, then he would have to defend it. And so he would have to take up arms, and then he could no longer be a brother to those whom he met. Now, while we're not necessarily called to divest ourselves of all of the physical things that we have, we need to have this spirit of being detached, of being able to get rid of our baggage, and not just the physical, but the spiritual, the emotional, the psychological, our pride, our dignity, our desire to always get our own way, to be always right, the fear of being humiliated or the fear of being wrong. These are all things that weigh us down. They're baggage that we need to divest ourselves of, not only for our own freedom, but so that we can truly be transformed into Christ. What Francis understood and what Jesus is teaching us is our very fundamental vocation. Not simply to live a life of interior poverty, which we're all called to divest ourselves, but to allow that to come about, to live a life of interior prayer and silence, to allow the God who loves us so much to manifest that love. And how does God's love manifest in us? It manifests by transforming us, divinizing us, as the early church fathers speak about, conforming us to his own image and not the other way around. And this brings us to being truly human and to being truly free. We become the peace of God for others, whether that be a peace that is something they need simply emotionally or psychologically, but above all, spiritually. So my brothers and sisters, as we hear these readings this Sunday, let us be convinced in our own heart of the tremendous desire that God has for us, and his desire for us to be truly free, to be truly happy, to be whole, to be in communion with him for eternity. And let us take seriously his call for all of us, for you and for me, to take that relationship that we enter into more deeply every day with the Lord, and to become ambassadors of peace to others, particularly in our own world today. Jesus in the gospel intimates to his disciples that not everybody is going to respond positively to their invitation, to their message. And so it is for us too. And yet he calls us to that same mission, to that same truth, to that same liberation. May God bless you.